Welcome, everyone. I'm Angelo Robles. I'm the founder and CEO at FamilyOffice Association, a global membership organization dedicated to the interest of highly successful families and their family offices. I'm also the host of the Angelo Robles podcast on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Stitcher, and other platforms. I decided to do this video, which is probably long needed, and there's very few resources more broadly available out there. We will do an upcoming masterclass, and I do some private consulting for both families and potentially family office executives, kind of on this topic. What is that topic? Working for the super rich, fiction and reality. Oh, I've been looking to do this one for a long time. It's probably, what's the most common question I get? It generally relates mainly to those outside the family office in terms of what's an inside look inside the family office. Is it something where I would be a good fit, where I want to work there? And even from the family side, especially having a liquidity event, kind of understanding the dynamics of talent and people, which is the most important aspect for success in a family office. To give you a little bit of context before we totally dive in, because this is a rather deep and very contextual subject. The old saying, they're all snowflakes, they're all different. It's true, but there's certain benchmarks and best practices that you do see. I've been doing what I'm doing for a long time. Internationally, we're growing more than ever from an international perspective. And I've privately consulted for several years now with a couple of families. But now we're more open about it as I'm looking to even scale that up a little more. And all of that is on our new website, FamilyOfficeAssociation.com. But I've known thousands of families, hundreds and hundreds of billionaire families, and I've seen some of the more challenged SFOs out there, many about average, but potentially looking to get better. But it's been a true joy with some of my experiences for well over a decade with truly extremely high performing, very effective and efficient family offices and the people in them, and getting to know them. And in my research and conversations, both with families and family office executives, having done this for so long, I'm happy to share some of the insights that I've gleaned, and I hope you find it to be of value. I am mainly, because there's so little out there on this, I am mainly going to focus from the perspective of someone looking to be a consigliere, a confidant, a family office senior executive or leader, specifically working for the larger billionaire type families. However, to give again context, at least initially, we'll talk somewhat from the family's perspective in terms of onboarding talent as well. You really can't tell one story without sharing the other. Now, where I'll start is this can be, for the executive, a cherished, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. There's only so many billionaires, and even so many families broadly, that would have a single family office, that the opportunity of coming in rather senior, I mean, it's like playing professional sports. It's rarefied air. Few make it. There's few opportunities. Or coaching such a team. Sometimes you're willing to make sacrifices that you normally wouldn't make just for the opportunity. However, unfortunately, like in coaching or managing in sports, because it is rarefied, sometimes you may jump too quickly and not be in the right system and culture to potentially really make it work. But for sure, the opportunities are few and far between. Although the good news is I see more and more single-family offices being created, and for a variety of factors, somewhat under the auspice of virtual family office, lesser AUM or dollar amounts for the family, potentially creating a more intimate structure in the family office. As I said, few and far between, and they're cherished and wanted, but there can be concerns. I'm actually going to start talking a little bit from the family's perspective, which again I think is going to be important for the context. One, for the family. You need to make the right decision. The stakes and the intimacy of the relationship are too high. In a family office, even for billionaires, most family offices are relatively small and intimate. One bad apple, or not even a bad apple, just a wrong hire, especially more senior level, it stands out, at least to others potentially in the family office. And that one wrong person could likely make it impossible to have a good, great, or exceptional single family office. So from the family side, if you're going to do it and you see the value and benefits, which are enormous, in having a single family office, do it right, or please don't do it at all. Be rigorous about it, be professional, and do it of institutional quality. The good news, more and more single family offices that I'm seeing are being done with more of, hey, this is a professional company. It's managing my wealth and resources, my legacy. I need to do it right. And I need to run it like a business, which is what it is. And that means to be professional and institutional. You need to spend time and money. Otherwise, just don't bother. Don't hire cronies. Don't hire someone just because they're safe. That you trust them and that they're honorable and of character, of course that's incredibly important. But there's going to be highly qualified professionals that are self-starters, that are going to work well in what you're looking to do and run with it and not look at it as being the ending point of their career and be on cruise control. So again, you want to hire true professionals. It's more than just skill set, although important. It's leadership, especially if they're going to be in a senior role. It's culture. And do their behaviors and actions help to shape it and have diversity and work well and be, again, you're not looking for average. I don't even think you're looking for good. You're looking to be great, to be exceptional. They must be a good fit. That could mean different things. Their ability to communicate, their emotional intelligence, their dedication to customer service and being a team player. Perhaps the most critical, pure intellectual skill, and very important, is critical thinking. And I think, especially in today's world, polymath, the capability of crossover skill set, becomes very important. And again, I go back to emotional intelligence, a good listener, and the ability to communicate is incredibly important. Oh, and by the way, please, if you're doing this and it's the right fit and you have the right employment agreement and structures and compensation, which we're not going to go deeply into at all in this video, that's the subject of an other one and another type of more deeper masterclass. But please pay them well, not just okay. You want them to be compensated. You're looking for greatness. You're building a great team. To do that, you got to spend the time and money. And it's going to be worth it if you do it right. Okay. After a little bit of that context, how about for those seeking to work in this rarefied opportunity? Now, you may come from a skill set, most common, legal, accounting, banking, investment banking, private equity, private banking, consulting, possibly security, and more kind of high level, what I would almost call customer service, if it's more of a concierge level family office. Almost think of a hotel management degree from Cornell. And yes, we're seeing more and more of that. So you really have to ask yourself, there's relatively few opportunities. There's a lot of people who want to get in. Are you capable? What's your inherent ability for critical thinking? And how about all those things I mentioned for the families to keep an eye on? What's your skill set? What's your leadership potential and capability? Cultural fit, and your impact on creating a positive culture, your emotional intelligence, your communication. There's more than just your raw intellectual firepower, although important, and part of making good decisions and critical thinking. But it's much deeper than that. And especially in a small, intimate, usually somewhat entrepreneurial environment of the family office, it requires the capability of leadership, teamwork, a self-starter, and now during COVID times, the capability of being remote and tech savviness comes even more into play. Are you building something that is professional and institutional? Or are you joining an organization that is willing, and are you willing to sacrifice to be a part of that? So is it more of creating a family office and you're going to have a very senior role and going to be impactful from a leadership and cultural development? Or are you more going to be additive? And that creates a whole other series of dynamics. What's your age? What's your pure skill set? How does that fit in with the family office? Is this really a career track? It doesn't need to be. And sometimes family offices, especially for younger professionals, fall down on that. Little bit of a sidebar, mistake for the family, especially with these millennials who could be so talented, but generally don't look at something as I'm going to stay here for 20 years. I know you would rather kind of border on set it and forget it, but it just doesn't work that way. Would you rather have someone who's mediocre, who's a 6.5 or 7, but they're going to be with you for 20 years, partially because no one else probably wants them? Or would you rather have greatness, someone who's a 9 plus, but, and part of it's going to depend on cultural fit, their interaction with you, and of course compensation. But even regardless of that, maybe it's a 3 to 5 year run, and I'm going to say that's okay. You want to build greatness, and to do that, you got to spend the time and money, and you have to realize that for some people, it's not going to be the only thing that they want to do, even if you're compensating them in the top 10%. It just may be something they need to move on from. A successful family office, kind of the big three, and probably sequentially, it's people, systems, and technology. People, that is number one. Your talent, especially in relatively a small, intimate environment, and now with COVID and more remote, even more fractured than really ever before. It's really, really important that both parties make the right choice here. Pre-COVID, you had the big cities of great successful families and generally a lot of talent. New York, San Francisco, London, Hong Kong. Kind of where the money and the talent was. Now things have adjusted, which can be good because as an executive, you could live wherever you want to live as long as you have a great internet connection and access and communication. It may create more flexibility beyond needing to be tied down to one of the locales that I noted. Most SFOs are adequate. They're okay, but they're not bordering on perhaps not being good, and certainly many are not very good, great, or exceptional. That's pretty rarefied air. Ironically, the families that had liquidity often built amazing companies and had proper governance and structures, and yet somehow that often kind of falls apart in the SFO. You will often come into a situation with less resources if you were at a giant law firm, a banking institution, a Big Four accounting company. Even for most billionaire families, you're coming into a little bit more of an entrepreneurial self-starter setup. And again, during COVID, remote and tech savviness, all of that is going to come into play. It's going to be your ability to be a beginner's mindset, to be adaptive, to be a kind of critical thinking. I come back to that. The depth of your Rolodex and connectivity. Your ability, again, to be a self-starter, to be adaptive. The stakes are high for both parties, for you and the family. And you may only get one bite at this apple. It would make sense as a talented professional with options to choose wisely. And if you're talented, you should have options. If you're really, really good at what you do in legal, accounting, banking, concierge level services, one, you're probably gainfully employed and well compensated to begin with. So you don't necessarily need it. You're not in that position. And you probably have recruiters and other options. But, and I'm going to put the family hat on now, that's what you want. You want people that are talented, dedicated, would be a great fit. And yeah, others may look to recruit them, and that's kind of the circle of life. Again, I go back to, do you want to have a 6 or 7, but have the same people over and over, just they fall into mediocrity at best? Or do you want to strive for greatness, even if it means every couple of years things get shaken up? That's how it works. I'm going to refer to a new friend of mine who has a great blog, Sven Lorenz, S-W-E-N, last name L-O-R-E-N-Z. I love this guy's writing. He's going to be on my podcast shortly. I'm going to highlight a couple of points, not all of them, that he makes in kind of the top 1 through 10 considerations that as an executive you consider before working for a billionaire family. And some of these I'll mix in my words, and I wouldn't be noting these if I didn't agree with them. So let's go with 1. Low salary, relatively speaking, yet high promises potentially from the family. Do you think these work out well? Sometimes they do, but you kind of want to get it in writing. And if you're a family, you want to have things like NDAs, proper legal agreements. Again, don't be penny wise and pound foolish. You need to get legal involved. You need to make the right decision, pay people properly, and have proper documents in place. But that works both ways. If there is some kind of a commitment on, if you're not clear on compensation, that's a problem. So how are you co-investing? How are bonuses, loans, and payback to perhaps co-invest? Carried interest as part of your comp. If it's direct deals, but the family is in no rush to often exit, you may not have a payout for decades. How could you address that? So exit of deals and how long? Are there golden handcuffs involved? You need to understand this, and the family needs to get clarity and be direct from their perspective. And you, as a potential talented employee that should have options, otherwise you'll probably never get hired in an SFO, although with some of them being so bad, maybe you will. You need to get clarity on this. Again, employment agreements, NDAs, etc. Employment agreements and clarity on comp benefit both sides. If I was on the family side, don't just think. Don't be the penny wise and pound foolish. You have to pay talented people. They have options. Now, this brings up a bigger argument. Are A++ players the best of the best always needed? No, because you're looking at that through the skill set perspective. But there's the nuances of, are they a leader, their cultural fit, their teamwork in the intimate, more self-starter environment, often with less resources of an SFO. If you don't need something done constantly and consistently, or you're willing to have it be a little bit less private and more open, there may be better circumstances to outsource that A++ player on whatever, investment banking, whatever it may be, then bring them in and have their ego and other issues impact the value that they could be to you better being outsourced and not polluting the culture and the environment of your family office. Although now in COVID and remote, that's a little bit of a different dynamic, but these are really, really important topics. You don't have to bring everyone in internal, and one, comp is going to be an issue if they're really, really good and a high flyer, seven-figure earner in what they're doing. Also, they may have more breadth of global relationships and experiences, and they're going to be too bored and siloed in terms of what you do, and the executive should consider that as well. Especially if you're going to be active as a direct deal maker. How active is that family going to be, and what happens kind of if they're not? So a point number 2 that he brings up that I completely agree with, it's meant to be a little comical, is family members as family office colleagues. Family members, even close friends of the family, or people who can't be paid off as they know too much. Sometimes you're working with people who aren't there for their talent. You may have people that are lots of yes men and women. That's a bad thing. You'll be in a lower hierarchy than them. And just one family member with nepotism, without earning it, embedded in the family office, especially a larger billion-dollar-plus family that should be more professional and institutional. It could, I don't say it will, it could make it very, very difficult. And especially, and again, the intimate office environment, it may feel a little bit of the spying or pressure. Is that fair? No, it's probably not fair. And again, that's not right 100% of the time. But you at least need to be aware of it. Who is in the family office? Is anyone a family member? What's the culture? And understand some of the context behind that. It's potentially a red flag, and you need to be consideration of it. I would keep an eye on working on dead-end passion projects especially if it's a wealth creator. And again, Sven Lorenz talks about that as well. I would look for, depending on the stage of your career, is there a lack of professional learning, development, and advancement? Again, a little bit of that career track. And another one that he notes is what you're doing in the family office so narrow that it limits your future options. I think that's a little bit more of a stretch, but something that you may want to be of consideration in. As I said, you should spark the interest of recruiters if you're good. The family should not try to over-control. They need to treat you right. You need to have the proper agreements in place, and you need to get paid properly. And, that all goes a long way to having this work out. You don't need to be there forever for it to be amazing for both parties. I said that, but I think I needed to pound that home a little bit more. And you probably do want to get quarterly and annual reviews. You want to have clarity on what's important to the family and their perception. We're going to get to some of this shortly in terms of how you're doing. My experience, constant communication with the key family decision makers. Your emotional intelligence, your ability to communicate good and bad news. And asking, how am I doing? This is not all quantitative. More of it should be than is. A lot of it is qualitative. It's the feeling they have about you working in the family office. And it's not quite working in a giant bank or legal firm. It is different. As much as you may want it to be 100% professional and institutional, the odds are there's going to be some balance between, again, you can't improve what you can't measure, but measurables could be important to help determine how you're doing, the quantitative versus how they feel on the qualitative. Sven, and that was my comment, but Sven also notes that, you'll find crossover, that you're kind of working multiple different jobs, yet you're hired and paid for one. Well, welcome to the world of the family office. And by the way, some of you don't want, you're bored, maybe, of being too trapped in a legal firm, an accounting firm, whatever, a concierge and service situation, security, whatever it may be. And you like the fact that there's a little bit of quirkiness or some qualitative element and a dynamic of things could change and there's different things that happen every day, and that may get your heart going and be exciting. And maybe you are willing to make some sacrifices on a little bit less professional situation and maybe even less comp, because you live a little bit more for the excitement of putting your critical thinking skills and that to work on new things. And that's great, just to understand that, and mutually from both sides going in. Now, a big issue is how sustainable is the family office, whether a new one or existing. Is the wealth creator still around? Are they the one making the key decisions? What's their age? What's their health? And how engaged, if any, is the next generation? Meaning, suppose you get hired by an 89-year-old principal and things are great for a year. They get disabled or die. And now what happens? And this again comes down to clarity of employment agreements, severance, compensation. These are all going to be big, big issues. Effectively relating to, is there a succession plan? And most family offices are terrible, terrible, terrible about that. And that's not to say, although the wealth creator may likely be more entrepreneurial, so sometimes for direct deal-centric people, it's a little bit more Machiavellian, but sometimes the next generation, often very well educated, very professional, may actually be better from more of a professional institutional level single family office. So you can't judge one is better than the other. You need to understand what they expect from the family office and from you, and understand the nuances of the questions that I already brought up and asked and things that I've raised. There is a book. It's a little controversial in the community. Sven knows about it as well, and I read it a while back. It's called Martini Wonderland by Seth Schechter. Martini Wonderland. It's on Amazon. It's basically kind of a consigliere attorney, family office to some extent, but a little bit unique executive for a well-known billionaire principal. And it tells a story that sometimes could be true. And again, it's kind of intriguing, buying vineyards and buying islands. And again, some people are really going to like that. They're too trapped or feel they're too trapped in what they're doing. So, great family office executives, they solve problems. What I do in consulting, I solve problems. They're critical thinkers and they're proactive. I mean, these are some of the traits and things that you're going to see to be successful inside a single family office. Again, especially at the billionaire level, the family is already rich. Yeah, they probably want to get richer, so that's going to play into it. But they also want to have that moat around their castle. Wealth preservation is going to be very important for them. This is the clarity you should get and the confidence you should have in your interview that, hey, I'm really good. I have options. It's going to benefit you, and I'm going to benefit as well. It's mutually beneficial. You need to have somewhat of that inside of you. And I think the principal or the inheritors, whoever may be, the three constituents in the family office are the elders, which may be the wealth creator, the rising generation, and be aware of them and their nuances and differences. And again, they're kind of your boss now. They for sure will be if you're there at a point in the future. And the family office executive or executives. I mean, those are historically kind of the big three. back a little bit to Martini Wonderland. I mean, there's stories in there. This is oh so true. And this was a well-known liquor tycoon, and they were producing their scotch in Scotland. He goes there. They were only manufacturing 2 days a week because of certain laws. And he's like, I mean, we could ramp up production, it'll be more successful. And they had to work with politicians to allow, I think it might have been 4 days a week. Negotiating, buying islands, building golf courses, sometimes deals with celebrities and branding, and there's deal making tends to be a little bit of a part of it. So sometimes people from a PE, investment banking, or attorneys that are active on that perspective could be a good fit from that perspective. And again, these are the excitement and nuances for some of you that you may find working in a family office. Actually, there's going to be some that are yearning for this, that are going to thrive on it, even if they know it comes with some nuances and challenges. You also have to understand, and I've seen this as well, more pre-COVID, because it's a little different now in more of a remote environment. You may be a 7-figure earner, bigwig, direct deal slashing CEO of a family office, yet perhaps no need to really have a receptionist. If someone comes in, randomly or not, you may be the one that has to get up there and greet them. And again, this is not a position for a big ego. Have a beginner's mindset, be humble, critical thinking, problem solving, emotional intelligence, communication. Understand the dynamics that you're coming into with the wealth creator and the next generation. Again, what did I say about what's important to them, their ages? I would state, what's their purpose? I would want to know, now if you're starting from scratch, you'll be impactful for this, but governance, which relates to how decisions are made, understanding the values, the vision, the mission of the family, the culture of the family, and potentially what you're looking to do in either creating or being impactful to all those things inside the family office. What a lot of this comes down to, because again, a fair amount of it is qualitative, how do they define success? And you want to get some clarity on that. As noted, quantifiable measures, because they're easier to benchmark and you can make improvement, you think, is true. However, you can't deny, even in institutional, it's going to be qualitative as well in how the family feels. At times, the wealth creator and them being active is the right situation for you. On others, again, as I noted earlier, it may be the rising generation. Oftentimes, without proper communication and some semblance of succession, the next generation may take over from a ill or dying elder, and the family office could be disbanded or simply go in a different direction. It's how they feel, that younger generation, about you as well. And sometimes this comes down to their perception of you, sometimes more than reality, your ability to communicate and have you communicated. And with a younger audience, they're just different from their investing perspective, their philanthropic perspective, and it probably would help to be ample or successful on your digital and your tech savviness that I mentioned earlier. Family dynamics are the number one reason why families don't survive, let alone thrive. They don't survive generationally. And if you could be impactful and beneficial as an educator and hand-holding to the next generation and a good listener to their needs and help the family navigate that transition, that's pretty powerful. It doesn't matter if you're an attorney, a banker, a PE professional. Again, this is something where polymath and diversity of your skill set, which is what you may find exciting. Can you deliver bad news? Your communication skills, independent, self-starter. We don't have time to get into advisory boards could be valuable. Having a mentor in and out of the family office, I guess you could say, the depth of your Rolodex, but this is kind of your responsibility to some degree. The family's coming to you, and if you negotiate the right deal in compensation, you should be in it for excellence. excellence. You need to do the best job possible and then some for the family. You want them to be great and their family office to be great, and you want to be prideful of the effort, the dedication, the talent, and what you put into it and help to make it successful. Again, a little bit more. I hope you enjoyed this, by the way, and you now have a little bit more insight into, again, what could be the fiction and reality of working in a family office. I'm Angelo Robles. I'm the founder and CEO at Family Office Association. We're among the world's largest membership organizations dedicated to both families of great wealth and their family office executives. We have several hundred committed members. I've been doing this a long time. We output a tremendous amount of original content, and our members get that. It's part of what they get. We often do daily meetings so they get a chance to interact with their peers, to hear thought leaders that I interview. And we're just incredibly active. It's been a lot of fun. I've been doing this for so long, yet hopefully, I hope keep it fresh. I'm also the host of the Angelo Robles podcast. It's easy to find me. I'm very active on social media. We're Family Office on YouTube, but I'm active on Instagram as Family Office Association. You could easily find me on LinkedIn. And our website is FamilyOfficeAssociation.com. We also have master classes. These are usually multi-hour pre-recorded videos. Sometimes they come with PDFs and PowerPoints, sometimes even with testing. I've done them, my most significant, on creating an adaptive, resilient, anti-fragile family office to thrive generationally. My members get that included in their membership, but it is available. You could see from my website to purchase as a one-off. And something we're doing with Udemy, the online learning platform, and we'll probably have it on our site sometime in late October, is Family Offices 101. And that's 5 videos that are shorter than the other 6-hour one, which was the one I just mentioned. But again, there's nothing wrong with starting in Family Offices 101, and really a passion project of mine and something that I love. And internationally is working selectively with an intimate group of families every year, consulting often on this topic, because people is number one. The structures of the family office, the people, the systems, the technologies, and working with families. And sometimes I am more hired and work directly with the family office is invigorating to me. And hopefully I make a difference and an impact. Everyone, I'm Angelo Robles. My preferred email is angelo@familyofficeassociation.com. Thank you for watching our video today.